Karen Delacroix was the type of woman who thrived on control, and when she felt like she was losing it, she'd do anything to get it back, even if that meant destroying an innocent man's life. Oak Ridge Heights, where people like Jamal don't belong. It was one of those chilly autumn nights in Oak Ridge Heights, the kind where the air was crisp. The streets were quiet as hell, and the rich folks, they were nestled inside their multi-million-dollar homes, sipping on overpriced wine. It was the type of neighborhood where everyone knew everyone. And if you didn't fit the mold, people noticed. And if you were a black man walking alone at night in a hoodie, oh, they more than noticed. They watched, they whispered, and some like Karen Delacroix, took it upon themselves to do something about it. The perfect target, Jamal Bennett, wasn't thinking about any of that shit. He had just finished a long-ass day at work, his AirPods in, zoning out to some old-school R&B as he walked home. Dude was tired. He had zero energy to entertain the bullshit that was about to unfold. But Karen? Oh, she had been waiting for this moment all day. Her Range Rover was parked in her driveway as she rummaged through her expensive-ass designer bag, pretending to look for her keys. But she wasn't looking for keys. She was looking at him, watching, calculating. And then her lips curled into the tiniest smirk as she grabbed her phone. The 911 call that set it all off. Karen was a seasoned performer. She knew exactly how to sell a story, and so with one deep breath, she hit dial. 911, what's your emergency? Karen's voice cracked, trembling. Oh my God, please. I think I'm being followed. There's a man, a black man. He looks dangerous. She gasped for dramatic effect, her voice shaking like she was on the verge of tears. He's reaching into his pocket. Oh my God, he has a weapon. I think he has a gun. He's coming right at me, please. Send someone. It was all bullshit, every single word, but it was exactly the kind of bullshit that got black men killed. The setup was perfect, until it wasn't. Jamal had barely made it past her house when he saw something flash in the corner of his eye. Red and blue lights, coming fast. He barely had time to process it before he heard the screech of tires, saw two cop cars whip into the street, and then, "Get on the ground, now!" Jamal froze. Wait, what the fuck was happening? Why were they screaming at him? Who the hell were they even talking to? Then it clicked. Oh shit, they meant him. Face down on the pavement, before he could even react, before he could even process how insane this was, he felt it. A knee slamming into his back, a pair of hands yanking his arms behind him, the cold bite of metal snapping around his wrist cuffs. Jamal gritted his teeth, his breath coming in sharp. He had done nothing wrong, nothing. But none of that mattered right now, because in this moment, he was exactly what Karen wanted him to be. A suspect. He tried to kill me. Karen was sobbing now, holding her chest like she had just survived some horrific attack. I thought I was gonna die. He came right at me. He reached for a gun. I swear he had a gun. One of the cops, Officer Gregson, nodded at her sympathetically, while another officer, Vasquez, watched her a little too closely. Something wasn't adding up, but Karen was too caught up in her performance to notice. She turned to Jamal, her eyes blazing with fake-ass rage. How dare you? You tried to rob me. You people think you can just walk into our neighborhoods and take what you want. Jamal couldn't fucking believe what he was hearing. His chest burned with frustration, but he forced himself to stay calm. I didn't do a damn thing, he said through clenched teeth. Check the cameras. Oh, don't worry, Karen sneered. They will. And she was right. They would check the cameras. And when they did, Karen Delacroix was going to regret the hell out of this night. Karen thought she had won. She thought she had destroyed Jamal's life with just a few well-placed tears. But what she didn't realize, she had just planted the seeds of her own downfall, the first crack in Karen's story. Officer Vasquez stood near the patrol car, arms crossed, watching Karen carefully as she continued her dramatic sobbing. Something didn't feel right. Karen's story had changed, just a little, but enough for him to notice. First, she said Jamal had a weapon. Then she said he reached into his pocket. Now, she wasn't sure what she saw. Ma'am, Vasquez interrupted, his tone professional but firm. Just to clarify, you saw a gun. Karen sniffled, hesitating just for a second too long. I, uh, I don't know, officer. It all happened so fast, but I was terrified. That should be enough, right? Vasquez said nothing, but his jaw tightened. She was trying to manipulate them. And he wasn't buying it. Jamal knows this game too well. Jamal sat in the back of the squad car, his wrists still cuffed, his breathing controlled, but his mind racing. He had seen this happen to too many black men before, and he knew exactly how it ended when you let your emotions take over. So he didn't fight. He didn't yell. Instead, he locked eyes with Vasquez through the rearview mirror and spoke calmly, evenly, dangerously controlled. Check the cameras, the footage that changed everything. Vasquez didn't say anything, but when he turned and saw Officer Gregson nodding along to Karen's shaky, tear-filled statement, something in him snapped. He was done playing this game. If this guy was guilty, fine. But if he wasn't, then this wasn't justice. This was bullshit. So he made the call. 15 minutes later, Vasquez stood in the security office of a nearby house, watching the footage play on repeat. And what he saw? It changed everything. Karen's web of lies begins to collapse. The security footage was crystal clear. Jamal never looked at Karen. Jamal never reached into his pocket. Jamal never did a damn thing. But Karen, she had been watching him the entire time. She set the whole thing up. And now there was proof. The confrontation, Karen's worst nightmare, begins. When Vasquez walked back to the patrol car, his entire demeanor had changed. Karen noticed immediately. She wiped her fake tears, trying to read his face. But for the first time that night, she was the one who felt afraid. Ma'am, Vasquez said, voice clipped. Can you explain to me why the security footage shows you never in danger? Karen's heart dropped. What? She stammered. I don't understand. Maybe the cameras didn't capture the right angle. Or maybe, Vasquez cut in, stepping closer. You lied. Karen's entire face drained of color. This was not how this was supposed to go. She was supposed to be the victim, the hero, the brave woman who survived an attack. Not this, the arrest no one saw coming. Gregson was still on Karen's side, still muttering something about misunderstandings and different perspectives. But Vasquez, he wasn't having it. He turned to Jamal, still cuffed. Sir, I sincerely apologize. You're free to go. And just like that, the cuffs were off. Jamal rubbed his wrists, exhaling slowly, but his eyes never left Karen. She looked like she was about to throw up. Good. Karen's breakdown. The end of the mask. No! Karen shrieked, lunging forward, her entire body shaking. You're making a mistake. He's the one who should be in cuffs. He threatened me. He's dangerous. I'm the victim. Vasquez just stared at her. Not according to the footage. Karen started hyperventilating. This couldn't be happening. This wasn't supposed to be the ending. She was supposed to win. Gregson tried to calm her down, but Karen was too far gone now. She was screaming, sobbing, shaking uncontrollably, her voice echoing through the quiet streets. I'll sue you. I'll have your badge. This isn't fair. I'm a good person. But no one was listening anymore. Because for the first time in her life, Karen had no power. Karen thought losing control for one night was bad. She had no idea her entire world was about to collapse. Because in the digital age, lies don't just die, they go viral. The video that changed everything. By the time Karen was driven home that night, she thought she could still fix this. Maybe she could play the victim. Maybe she could spin this into a misunderstanding. Maybe, just maybe, she could get away with it. But what Karen didn't know? The entire incident had been recorded. And worse, it had already hit the internet. Ouch, arrest, Karen goes viral. At first, it started small. Someone posted the security footage on a local Facebook page with the caption, Racist, Karen falsely accuses black man of attacking her. Watch how fast she gets exposed. People started sharing it. People started commenting. People started recognizing her. And then it exploded. Twitter, trending #1. Rest, Karen. TikTok, 3 million views in 4 hours. Instagram, every major activist account reposting it. And the comments? Brutal. This woman needs to be in jail. She really tried to ruin this man's life and walked away? This is attempted murder in my book. Cops have shot men for less. Find out where she works. She needs to be fired now. Karen's face was everywhere. And for the first time in her life, there was nowhere to hide. The phone calls start coming in 7 a.m. Karen's phone starts blowing up. 7:05 a.m. She ignores it. 7:10 a.m. She sees the news headline and nearly faints. Oak Ridge Heights woman exposed for false accusation. Community demands justice. 7:15 a.m. Karen's boss calls. Karen, we need to talk. She freezes. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be happening. She forces out a nervous laugh. Oh my God, you're not actually listening to those woke mob lunatics, are you? Silence. Then, HR needs you to come in. Bring your work laptop. That was it. Karen knew she was screwed. Karen loses everything in record time. By noon, Karen's perfect life was in shambles. She was fired, effective immediately. Her husband stopped answering her calls. Her social media accounts were flooded with death threats. She tried to make a Facebook post defending herself. It backfired instantly. I have black friends. This is all a misunderstanding. 40,000 laughing react emojis. And the final blow? Her homeowners association sent her a notice. Due to recent events, your continued residency in our community is under review. Even her own neighbors wanted her gone. The last straw, Karen tries to fight back. Karen wasn't done yet. She wasn't going down without a fight. She hires a lawyer. She files a defamation lawsuit against Jamal. It's the worst mistake of her life, because when she walks into the courthouse, cameras flashing, ready to clear her name, Jamal is already there, and he's not alone. He has the best civil rights lawyer in the city, and he's suing her first. Karen thought she could turn this around. She thought she could play the victim one last time. She had no idea. She had just walked into her own execution, the courtroom showdown. Karen strutted into the courthouse, head held high, sunglasses on, trying to look like the victim of a woke witch hunt. She expected sympathy, pity, support. Instead, she walked into a media circus. Cameras flashed in her face. Reporters shouted questions at her. Karen, do you regret calling 911? Karen, how do you feel about losing your job? Karen, what do you have to say to Jamal? She ignored them. She had a plan. She was going to tell the judge she was being harassed, that this was a smear campaign, that her life was being destroyed over a simple misunderstanding. She was going to turn this into her moment. She was going to win, or so she thought. The lawsuit that changed everything. Karen barely made it to her seat when she heard it. Your Honor, we'd like to present our countersuit against Ms. Delacroix for defamation, false police report, and emotional distress. Karen's stomach dropped. Her lawyer flinched. Jamal wasn't here to defend himself. He was here to destroy her. And the evidence? It was airtight. The evidence against Karen. Jamal's lawyer stood up, calm, confident, and dropped a thick-ass folder of documents on the table. Exhibit A, the full security footage. Here we can see that Mr. Bennett never once approached Ms. Delacroix. He didn't even look at her. Exhibit B, the 911 call logs. Here we see Ms. Delacroix lying about seeing a weapon, despite later admitting under oath that she never actually saw one. Exhibit C, Karen's social media posts. And here we have Ms. Delacroix's old Facebook posts, where she repeatedly expresses racist views about people of color in her neighborhood. Karen's face turned ghost white. Her hands started shaking. The courtroom was silent, and then the judge leaned forward. Ms. Delacroix, do you have anything to say in your defense? Karen opened her mouth, but nothing came out. The moment Karen knew it was over, she was supposed to be the one pressing charges. She was supposed to be the one in control. Instead, she was sitting there, exposed, powerless, drowning in her own lies. And Jamal? He just sat back and watched. He didn't need to say a word. Karma was speaking for him. The verdict. Karma hits like a freight train. The judge didn't take long. She looked straight at Karen and said the words that sealed her fate. Ms. Delacroix, you have been found liable for defamation and filing a false police report. You are ordered to pay Mr. Bennett $2.5 million in damages. Karen's world collapsed. She gasped. She pleaded. She begged, but there was nothing left to say. She had destroyed herself. Karen thought losing the lawsuit was the worst thing that could happen. She had no idea the universe wasn't done with her yet, because when karma comes, it doesn't just take, it annihilates. The walk of shame, Karen stumbled out of the courthouse, completely dazed. The moment she stepped outside, the cameras swarmed her. Karen Ahen, any comments on losing the case? Karen, how will you pay $2.5 million? Karen, do you regret what you did? She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. But there was nowhere to go. Her car had already been repossessed. Her house? Gone. And her job? No one would even return her calls. She was a walking disaster, and everyone wanted to watch her fall. The betrayal she never saw coming. Karen made it home, or what was left of it. When she opened the door, her husband was waiting. Karen, we need to talk. She froze. Not this, not now. I saw the footage, Karen, he continued, voice calm. I saw everything. She tried to argue, tried to spin the story again, but he just shook his head. I can't do this anymore. That was when she saw it. The suitcase by the door. Her suitcase. He wasn't leaving. She was. Rock bottom has a basement. Karen had nothing left. No job, no money, no home. She was officially the most hated woman on the internet. And then, the final blow. She got a letter in the mail from Jamal's lawyer demanding her first payment, $2.5 million. She couldn't pay it. She would never be able to pay it. And because of that, she was officially bankrupt. Meanwhile, Jamal, he was thriving. He took the money she owed him and used it to start a foundation for victims of false accusations. He was getting interviews, praise, invitations to speak at universities. He was winning. And Karen, she was nothing, exactly what she deserved.